Welcome back, slime enthusiasts. Season 2 of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime took everything we loved about Season 1 and cranked it up to 11. We're talking diplomatic intrigue, devastating warfare, god-tier power-ups, and a banquet of demon lords that'll blow your mind. This season transformed our lovable slime from a respected Monster Nation leader into a full-fledged demon lord, and the journey was nothing short of spectacular. Rimuru returns to Tempest after entrusting the children's education to Tis, ready to tackle the mountain of administrative work waiting for him. Upon catching up on everything that happened during his absence, he immediately dives into establishing diplomatic relations with the Kingdom of Eurazania, led by the demon lord Carrion. The negotiations involve meeting with the three beast Katirs, Carrion's elite warriors, but things get heated when Shion's competitive nature gets the better of her and she ends up fighting one of them, showcasing the delicate balance between strength and diplomacy that Rimuru must maintain. After Rimuru manages to stop Shion's out-of-control attack before things escalate too far, the negotiations between Tempest and Eurazania conclude successfully, opening up new trade routes and technology exchanges between the two nations. Later, Rimuru visits Class S to check on the children's progress before heading to Dwargon to meet with King Gazelle. Unbeknownst to Rimuru, dark forces are already moving against him. Demon Lord Clayman has begun scheming, sending his spy equipped with an artificial heart that binds her will completely to his control, setting the stage for the chaos to come. Rimuru updates King Gazelle on all his recent achievements and diplomatic successes, and the two leaders formalize the alliance between Tempest and Dwargon, strengthening their bond. The serious business concluded, Rimuru and his male companions decide to ditch their female friends for some quality guy time, revisiting a certain establishment they enjoyed during their previous stay in the kingdom. Naturally, their attempt at a relaxing boys' night out backfires spectacularly, landing them in hot water and proving that even powerful monsters can't escape the consequences of making their companions angry. Rimuru gives his final lessons to the students of Class S, officially passing the teaching torch to Tis as he prepares to focus on his duties as leader of Tempest. Meanwhile, Yume returns to Tempest with his new companion, Mjurin, a skilled magician who everyone welcomes warmly, except they don't know she's actually Clayman's spy, sent to infiltrate and sabotage the Monster Nation from within. Elsewhere, at the Kingdom of Falmuth, the king and his advisors view Tempest's rapid growth and success as a direct threat to their power and begin plotting an invasion, planning to use 3 enslaved otherworlders as their secret weapons against the monsters. With Rimuru conveniently out of the country and rumors spreading that Milim is about to attack Eurazania, Clayman's plan moves into its next phase. He forces Mjurin to activate a magical barrier that completely negates all magic power within Tempest's borders, crippling the monster's primary means of defense. Simultaneously, the Kingdom of Falmuth erects a second barrier that traps all of Tempest's inhabitants inside the city, preventing anyone from escaping the impending slaughter. The stage is set for disaster, and Rimuru's beloved nation stands defenseless. On his journey back to Tempest, Rimuru is ambushed by Hinata Sakaguchi, a powerful paladin who believes he murdered her mentor Shizu and has been given orders to execute him. Despite Rimuru's attempts to reason with her and explain the truth, Hinata refuses to listen, consumed by grief and rage. The battle proves incredibly difficult for Rimuru. Hinata has deployed an anti-magic barrier and possesses the terrifying ability to steal her opponent's skills mid-combat. While Rimuru struggles for his life back in Tempest, the Falmuth forces launch their invasion, and the citizens fight desperately against overwhelming odds, with casualties mounting by the minute. Rimuru narrowly survives his encounter with Hinata by creating a doppelganger and tricking her into believing she killed him, allowing him to escape while she thinks he's dead. Racing back to Tempest, he arrives to find his worst nightmare realized. The city has been devastated. Many of his beloved subjects lie dead, including Xion, and the barriers still stand, trapping the souls of the deceased. The sight of his fallen friends and the destruction of everything he built breaks something inside Rimuru. He manages to penetrate the barriers and immediately convenes his council to understand the full scope of the catastrophe and begins planning their response to Falmuth's inevitable second wave. In the depths of despair, Rimuru learns from Cabal's group that there's actually a way to resurrect Xion and all the other monsters who fell during the invasion, but it requires him to become a demon lord by harvesting 10,000 souls. He also discovers the truth about Murin's role as Clayman's unwilling spy, understanding that she was enslaved rather than a willing traitor. Before Falmuth can launch their next attack, Rimuru takes decisive action. He places a third barrier beneath the existing two to trap the souls of his fallen friends and prevent them from passing on, then frees Murin from Clayman's control by replacing her artificial heart with a genuine one while fooling Clayman into believing she died. Yom, who has developed feelings for Murin, is overwhelmed with gratitude, and she pledges to help Rimuru in any way she can. Rimuru also assigns Yom a critical role in his plans to become the new king of Falmuth once they've defeated the invading army. In a moment of raw honesty, Rimuru reveals his past life as a human to his closest subordinates, finally sharing the truth about where he came from and who he was before becoming a slime. Together, they formulate a comprehensive plan to deal with the enemy forces while simultaneously preparing the complex ritual needed to revive their fallen comrades. The price is steep. Rimuru must ascend to Demon Lord status, which means orchestrating the harvest of 10,000 human souls. Despite the moral weight of this decision, Rimuru steels himself for what must be done, prioritizing his friends' lives over the lives of those who came to destroy everything he built. Rimuru launches his counterattack against the invading Falmuth forces with devastating efficiency, deploying his subordinates to systematically dismantle the barrier surrounding Tempest. In the process, they get their revenge against the 3 otherworlders and soldiers who slaughtered their friends, with Tempest's forces proving overwhelmingly superior. 2 of the otherworlders are killed, the barriers are destroyed, and Murin and Shuna erect new protective barriers around Tempest. The final otherworlder is temporarily saved by Raisin, a Magian working for Falmuth, who is shocked to learn that Rimuru still lives when all of Falmuth believed Hinata had killed him. After their escape, Raisin ruthlessly kills the otherworlder and takes over his body, while Rimuru sends his subordinates back to safety so he can begin the final, darkest phase of his plan alone. Using his newly acquired skill, Rimuru methodically annihilates the entire Falmuth army, sparing only the king and his subject Rehim, absorbing all the souls necessary to complete his evolution into a demon lord. After a brief but intense confrontation with the captured king, Rimuru's strength begins failing as the evolution takes hold, and he has Ranga rush him back to Tempest with the prisoners. His actions trigger a summoning that brings forth a primordial demon, the same ancient being that Shizu and Tis encountered long ago, who immediately pledges service to Rimuru. As the transformation completes, Rimuru gains incredible new abilities while sacrificing one of his previous skills, then immediately uses his newfound Demon Lord powers to resurrect Xion and all the other fallen monsters, succeeding in his desperate gamble. Meanwhile, the Primordial is dispatched to capture Raisin, who also survived Rimuru's massacre. Despite Raisin's best efforts, he's no match for the ancient demon and is brought back to Tempest as the Primordial sacrifices his 2 subordinates to ensure Rimuru's resurrection ritual succeeds. With the ritual complete and his friends restored, Rimuru finally collapses from utter exhaustion. After recovering from his transformation, Rimuru receives devastating news. The kingdom of Eurazania has been destroyed, and Carrion defeated by Milim with assistance from fellow demon lord Frey, though fortunately, the citizens managed to escape and take refuge in Tempest. Learning of Clayman's likely involvement in manipulating Milim and Frey's actions, Rimuru sends Sui and Suka to investigate and gather intelligence. The primordial demon who Rimuru summoned formally enters his service under the name Diablo, proving to be as powerful as he is devoted to his new master. Finally, Rimuru fulfills his long-standing promise to his best friend Veldora by breaking the seal that imprisoned him and granting him a physical body, freeing the storm dragon after decades of captivity. The citizens of Tempest throw a massive celebration welcoming both Rimuru and Veldora back, the city alive with joy despite the recent tragedies. Once the festivities conclude, Rimuru convenes a serious meeting with his subordinates and allies to discuss their next moves in light of recent events. His ascension to Demon Lord status, Veldora's resurrection, Eurazania's fall, and Clayman's machinations all need to be addressed. The Kingdom of Dwargun and the newly allied sorcerer dynasty Sarion send representatives who arrive to participate in the crucial discussions, expanding the scope of the meeting to encompass multiple nations' interests and concerns. After being caught sneaking around, Laplace is chased out of the Holy Western Empire, and it's revealed that he and the moderate Harlequin Alliance are actually working for Yuki Kagurazaka, who has been secretly manipulating recent events, including the Orc Army crisis and Falmuth's invasion, as part of his grand scheme to take over the world. Yuki introduces the Alliance's leader, Kagali, while Laplace proposes calling a Walpurgis, a special summit meeting for all demon lords to deal with Rimuru. Meanwhile, representatives from Tempest and their allied nations hold their own conference to address Rimuru's ascension, Veldora's resurrection, Hinata's assassination attempt, and Clayman's interference. During discussions, Rimuru realizes that Yuki has been orchestrating their recent troubles, though he hasn't yet discovered Yuki's true endgame. To maintain Tempest's reputation and keep public opinion neutral, Dwargun, Blumund, and Sarion agree to spread a fabricated story that Veldora awakened in response to Falmuth's invasion and wiped out the enemy army. Then the newly awakened Demon Lord Rimuru tamed the legendary dragon. Just as Rimuru begins explaining his strategy, Demon Lord Ramiris arrives with an urgent warning that Tempest is doomed. Rimuru calms the panicking Ramiris down and has Veldora keep an eye on her while they sort things out. The conference concludes with Tempest strengthening its alliances with Dwargun, Blumund, and Sarion, while Yume receives official endorsement as Falmuth's future king with Muran supporting him. With diplomatic matters settled, Rimuru and his friends turn their attention to the looming confrontation with Clayman, who is busy making preparations for the upcoming Walpurgis. Clayman receives reports that the attack on Tempest failed catastrophically and believes Muran was killed in the process, completely unaware that Rimuru has deceived him. When Clayman shares this with Laplace, the clown warns him about his growing recklessness and dangerous overconfidence before departing, hinting at the cracks forming in Clayman's plans. After the formal meeting concludes, Ramiris, who has developed an addiction to manga, warns Rimuru about the dangers of Walpurgis and Clayman's schemes, at which point Rimuru reveals that Muran is actually still alive, contrary to what Clayman believes. The Allied leaders discuss the motivations behind Falmuth and the Western Holy Church's actions and prepare for the coming battle against Clayman. Muran provides crucial intelligence about the Five Fingers, 5 powerful individuals enslaved by Clayman with artificial hearts. She herself was one of them. Just as Soe and Soka return with fresh news about Clayman's movements. Rimuru prepares his forces for what he assumes will be an assault by Clayman on Tempest, but careful observation of the enemy army's movements reveals that Clayman's actual target is Eurazania, not Tempest. To rescue the citizens of Eurazania who oppose Clayman's occupation, Rimuru receives tactical advice from Raphael, his evolved great sage skill, and the overall strategy to subdue Clayman comes from one of his advisors. Meanwhile, in Milim's domain, the Dragon Faithful, a powerful group of warriors, are approached by Yamza, a member of the Five Fingers who, unlike the others, serves Clayman willingly rather than through enslavement, and he requests their assistance in the battle against Rimuru's forces. With preparations complete, Rimuru teleports his entire army directly to the battlefield in Eurazania. Clayman learns about Veldora's revival and arrogantly considers the possibility of making the legendary Storm Dragon his subordinate, still completely unaware of how thoroughly Rimuru has deceived him. Meanwhile, a flashback reveals that Milim has actually been brainwashed by Frey and Clayman using a mind-controlling necklace, which explains her seemingly out-of-character attack on Carrion and destruction of Eurazania. Clayman plans to use her overwhelming power for his own schemes. Demon Lord Leon visits the residence of Guy Crimson, the oldest and most powerful Demon Lord, where they discuss the upcoming Walpurgis, the suspicious actions of other Demon Lords, and the shocking revival of the Storm Dragon. During their conversation, Velzard, Veldora's older sister and another true dragon, joins the discussion and expresses keen interest in these developments. Leon informs them of the official story circulating about Veldora's seal being broken by Falmuth soldiers' blood, but both Guy and Velzard are skeptical. Leon shares his theory that Rimuru actually dismantled the seal himself, and Guy accepts this as plausible, musing that Rimuru would need to be a demon lord to accomplish such a feat. Guy offers Velzard a spot at Walpurgis, but she declines, saying she's not interested, and takes her leave. Rimuru continues preparing for Walpurgis, which includes helping Trainee evolve into a more powerful Dryas Doll Dryad form. Meanwhile, Benimaru and his forces arrive in Eurazania through transport magic and immediately spring a trap prepared by Geld, catching Clayman's army off guard. The three Beastketeers, determined to rescue their master Carrion, set out to defeat the enemy army's leadership. Beastketeer Albus engages Yamza in combat with some assistance from Rimuru's subordinates, while Phobio teams up with Geld to confront two other members of the Five Fingers, Footman and Tyr, powerful clowns serving Clayman. Beastketeer Sufia and Gabiru lead their respective troops against the Dragon Faithful, while Albus successfully defeats Yamza in single combat. When Yamza attempts to surrender to save his own life, Clayman remotely activates a contingency plan, forcing Yamza to swallow a piece of the destroyed monster Charybdis, which transforms him into a mindless, weaker version of that catastrophic beast. Benimaru steps in and brings down the corrupted Yamza, and afterward, Tempest's forces make peace with the Dragon Faithful, who recognize they've been manipulated. Meanwhile, Phobio and Geld find themselves outmatched by the superior skills of Footman and Tyr. However, the two clowns ultimately spare them since Clayman's orders didn't specifically include their elimination, an oversight that gives Rimuru's army a crucial advantage. Rimuru departs for Walpurgis accompanied by Shion and Trainee, while Shuna, Hakuro, and Sue lead a team to the puppet kingdom of Justin, Clayman's home domain, and Benimaru continues handling the main forces in Milim's territory alongside the Beastketeers. In Justin, they encounter a massive undead army led by Adalmann, a white and another member of the Five Fingers, who was cursed by Clayman to eternally guard the land. Noticing that Adalmann wears the tattered remains of priests' robes, Shuna demonstrates to him that even monsters can wield holy magic, creating a sacred barrier for them to fight within. Adalmann is deeply impressed and asks which god she worships. Shuna explains that her magic manifests from her profound respect for someone, meaning Rimuru. As Shuna's holy magic purifies the cursed land, only the binding curse on Adalmann breaks, freeing him from Clayman's control. Adalmann pledges his and his entire undead army's loyalty to Rimuru, though Shuna internally laments that he's becoming just as fanatical as Diablo. Once Walpurgis officially begins, Clayman presents his fabricated version of events to the assembled demon lords. He claims Carrion encouraged Rimuru to become a demon lord and orchestrated a harvest festival by manipulating Falmuth into attacking Tempest, then used Veldora's revival as a catalyst for evolution. He further claims that the brainwashed Milim and Frey only attacked Eurazania to punish Carrion for creating a new demon lord without the majority consent of existing demon lords, and now demands they all destroy Rimuru for this transgression. Rimuru systematically dismantles every lie, revealing that Mjurin is still alive and can serve as a witness, which shocks Clayman, who refuses to believe it, and that Tempest's forces have collected overwhelming evidence proving Clayman manipulated Falmuth. Guy Crimson, head of the Demon Lord Council, suggests they simply fight it out to resolve the matter quickly and efficiently. Clayman orders Milim to attack alongside his subordinates, creating an apparent numerical disadvantage for Rimuru's side, but Ramiris evens the odds by having Beretta join the fight. Just as Milim is about to strike Rimuru with a devastating punch, Veldora suddenly appears out of nowhere and tanks the hit completely. It turns out Veldora showed up primarily to pester Rimuru for more manga to read, being completely oblivious to the tense political situation. Rimuru has him occupy Milim in battle, and the Otaku Dragon enthusiastically calls out attack names from Street Fighter and Dragon Ball, treating the fight like a video game. Beretta efficiently takes down Viola, the combat puppet Clayman summoned, while Rimuru frees yet another enslaved member of the Five Fingers, a fox demon, and places it in Ranga's protective care. Clayman finally snaps under the pressure, losing all composure as his plans crumble around him and transforms into his crazed clown form. When he desperately orders Milim to use her catastrophic stampede form to annihilate Rimuru and his allies, she turns on him instead, revealing the stunning truth. She was never brainwashed at all and had been faking it the entire time. This revelation shocks Rimuru, while Veldora and some of the other demon lords admit they suspected this earlier. And Frey reveals she knew the whole time and was never actually on Clayman's side. With his weakness and plots completely exposed, Clayman is defeated by Shion, and Carrion reveals himself to be alive, having disguised himself as one of Frey's attendants. Even in defeat, Clayman refuses to reveal his benefactor's name, but a flashback shows he's been working for Yuki all along. In utter despair at his own inadequacy, Clayman begs for power and undergoes a pseudo-awakening. Crazed and half-awakened as a true demon lord, Clayman makes one final, desperate attempt to kill Rimuru and preserve his position, but Rimuru simply overpowers and devours him instead, absorbing his knowledge and learning that the moderate Harlequin alliance works for Kazarium, a former demon lord whose body Leon killed to take his seat, but who was reincarnated as Kagali by Yuki. Thanks to Veldora and Milim's careless banter, another secret is exposed. Demon Lord Roy Valentine is revealed to be merely a stand-in for the true Demon Lord Luminous Valentine, who had been disguised as the maid Rimuru found suspicious earlier. This forces Luminous to drop her disguise and send Roy back to her domain to deal with an intruder, while she expresses annoyance at Veldora for blowing her cover. Carrion and Frey voluntarily give up their seats as Demon Lords, acknowledging they're too weak to maintain the position, while they'll continue ruling their lands. With the group reduced to exactly 8 members, Guy suggests Rimuru should pick their new collective name. Looking up at the stars above the meeting hall, Rimuru decides to call them the 8-Star Demon Lords, Octagram. Meanwhile, in the Holy Empire, Laplace is chased away by Hinata, having believed the Demon Lord's absence meant weak security. Roy returns early from Walpurgis as Luminous sensed danger and confronts him. When Laplace learns that his dear friend Clayman was killed, he tears out Roy's heart in anguished fury after hearing Clayman insulted, crushing it and killing Roy, while he can only laugh hysterically through his tears.